But this is points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There was a 6, but I ripped it off because I don't want to talk about that one yet. But okay, so my work, I'm an empiricist. That's someone who believes that. I'll tilt the camera back right in a second after we're done talking about the top here. An empiricist is someone who believes that the only type of information about the physical world that humans can have is information to do with the senses. Okay, that doesn't mean that all information to do with your senses is right. It just means if you're going to have some correct information, the only way a human can get it is with their sense information. Now, you may come across correct information with mathematics or theory and so forth, but that's very, very hard to do, and usually that information is more just considered philosophy or theory on the wrong track. A lot of that's why people can fight about the curvature mathematics and stuff, because nobody knows which one's right, because nobody's up in a spaceship, getting the size, and that's just all bad mathematics and so forth. So the dream would be to have. Remember when Mark was on Dark 30 a couple days ago, and they made a good point there. They said that was a good show. It was kind of chaotic and stuff, but I liked the intensity of the debate. But they made a good point. They said, how can you prove flat Earth or round Earth from the sidewalk? That's what I want to do. Because all this NASA information, of course, is not scientific. Because if I can't verify it, and the average person can't verify it, it's not scientific information by definition. It's government, what would be called government information. It's behind closed doors information, which is by definition not science. So when I started studying flat Earth, I didn't really have any agenda. I just kind of wanted to go, doing my normal empirical analysis, which is empirical, by the way, is another way that would be a synonym of saying like the purest of science. So when you hear someone on the Discovery Channel or in a university say I'm a scientist, they're not really talking in the same. That's more big money science, big NSF grants and all that garbage. So I'm more of a pure empiricist, and what the dream was is to try to develop a model that you can verify flat or round from the sidewalk. And I want to be sensible here, not be. I think I'm on the right track. We'll see. Time will tell. I mean, it's really impossible for one person to figure all this out. So I'm not sitting here thinking, "Oh, I got it, and I'm awesome, and everybody's got to love me." No, I don't have no ego. No, I don't care if I'm wrong. I've made some mistakes. I've had to take videos down. That happens because this is tough to figure out. There's people out there making a video, they think about something for 3 minutes and then make a video. That's cool. Sometimes that works, but a lot of that stuff is, you really got to think about this stuff. I mean, I've been thinking about certain topics for 8-10 months now. I mean, we're talking all day. I'll be thinking about stuff, and I'm finding out just now that I need to tweak that idea a little more and observe this phenomenon a little better. Redo the cooling moonlight experiment again and so forth. But anyway, let me go to this here. So let me just get into it. I think what I'm onto is an empirical model that you can verify flat or round from the sidewalk, from your backyard. That's the way in my videos I describe it. You can verify this in your backyard. I like to say that statement because that's pure science. To say you can verify it only in the locked NASA lab that 3 people get into, not science. So anyway, it all is based on sundogs. Okay, that's point 1 here. And the idea of sundogs that I think I've empirically verified, or to put in other terms, scientifically proven, you can say zetetically verified, 3 ways of saying the same thing. I think that's a picture of the dome, what a sundog is.
Okay, for those who don't know, who are watching and are saying, what are sundogs? Let us know what that is first before we get into the rest of the explanation.
Yeah, it just occurred to me. Oh, I was going to say, I wish I had a picture of one, but happily. Am I frozen on your screen? Because you're frozen on mine. Okay.
It happens occasionally. Yeah, it'll unfreeze eventually.
Yeah, it's good. This is a sundog roughly looks like I got to close down stuff on my phone probably. This is roughly what a sundog looks like. This is a painting I did. I just thought it'd be cool as a backdrop. You can see a boat over here. The idea here is that this is a boat in Lake Michigan in, say, January or something. You can see the boat over here. Just a freighter, because my family and we always go to Lake Michigan in the summer and watch freighters go by. It's awesome. So, but anyway, the idea here is that these fellas on this boat here, working day in and day out away from their families, doing the grind, kind of a, not the most spectacular existence. Got to pay the bills, though. And then all of a sudden they see this thing in the sky, sundog. And they're, oh, wow, look at that, if they even notice it. Because sundogs are hard to see. You can have a full one in the sky. look like this, but you can't see because it's so bright. People won't tend to look at it because it's so incredibly bright. But if you do, you can, if you have a habit of looking in that direction like I do, you can. Sundogs are up there all the time. I just saw one earlier today.
So a sundog is next to the sun, or
okay,
how would one differentiate it from the sun itself?
It's all of a sudden you'll be looking in the sky, and usually where you see the ball of the sun, you'll see two what I call parhelia on the sides, and you'll get light events on top and bottom, and sometimes it can extend around the entire sky. It's called the parhelic circle. The sun will often change shape, become a diamond, or sometimes an oval, or sometimes a stop sign shape. What's that?
Reminds me of Pink Floyd, that song "Shine On, You Crazy Diamond."
Yeah. I haven't heard that song.
Maybe it has nothing to do with it, but maybe it has something to do with it. Yeah, they have a lot of songs that could have many meanings. Pink Floyd.
Well, yeah. The idea here is these fellows on the boat, though, is they're seeing a picture of the answer to all of their problems in their life. They're seeing verification that the world they've been told about is not true, that there's a dome over their heads, that they're created by God, that they're in God's image, they're special, their life has some point, some meaning, but they don't know it. That's the idea. I'm just describing my artwork here, so I'll get on with this in a second, but I just like this, they're right there that close to knowing everything they need to know about their reality, but they don't because they don't have any idea. So anyway, that's what a sundog looks like. So you got the academic view.
I've never seen one.
Oh, just start looking up. You'll see them, especially when it's hazy or there's chemtrails or what it is. Let me describe my view and then the academic view. My view is that the academic view, let's go with the academic. I call it the PSIC view, the Professional Science Ice Crystals model of parhelia and sundogs. That's just a name I made because nobody had, and there's only a number of people who. Here's a book. I'm reading this right now. I'm going to do a review on this for YouTube. See, they don't discuss the professionals. I talk to these guys on Facebook. They don't know what my motives are in studying sundogs and stuff. If they did, it probably wouldn't talk to me. But but they don't. What academics say is what's happening here is something like this, where you've got the sun. You see all those dots? Those are supposed to just represent pieces of snow or some kind of precipitation, ice crystals in the atmosphere or something. And then the sun, it's got its rays shooting out all over the place. But then here in one spot, not in the others, but in these certain spots, the way the sun shines will reflect in a certain way, and then it'll bounce in a different way into your eyes. And that's why that's why you see a sundog. So this over here doesn't reflect. This over here doesn't reflect. This over here doesn't reflect. Only this one area. So it's a very, very ad hoc theory, to be honest. And it's old theory. I think.
Looks like you froze up, and I bet you'll snap back. There we go. You froze up for a moment too. So.
Oh, okay.
No, it's totally good. You said a very ad hoc theory. That's the last I heard.
Oh yeah, it's very ad hoc theory, very old. Descartes, Rene Descartes, one of the co-inventors of calculus, I think, came up with the idea that the sun is reflecting in that certain. It's these angles which are the key. The angles that go like this. That's the basis of the academic model. They don't have any way to describe the structure, so they just basically say it happens this way. Now, now here's the thing, though. If you watch Zeteticism Volume 3 that I did, it's called Sundog and Halo Inversion Physics. You see something like this. So this is a picture of a video that I extracted off. Some wonderful person in Moscow filmed a sundog event as he was going through on a subway or something, going through apartment buildings or whatnot. So you can see the sundog flicking through the buildings as he's going through. And it's the most amazing thing you'd ever imagine is seen. Here's the sun, okay? Look at our picture behind me. You see the sun in the middle there. So here's the sun in the middle behind a building, right? And you can see the sundog ring is up along the top. And so it's behind the buildings. But look what I've drawn here. Why do I have some yellow there? Because a sundog shows up in the shade on the wrong side of the building. Then this I've found is absolutely standard with sundogs. It happens all the time, almost more often than it doesn't. Sometimes sundogs are strange. Sometimes they'll be so close feels like you can reach out and touch them. You know, in a mountain valley or something. They've got all kinds of pieces to them. They're incredibly. This painting is not showing the kind of intricacy. They are far more detailed than that. We're standing all around the sky and so forth. And academics have nothing to say about any of that structure. And somebody tell me why they're showing up in the shade here. Answer that I've come up with. So we've got the academic view. And if you want a better explanation rather than an off-the-cuff explanation I'm giving you right now, just you can check out my videos. Go to Zeteticism.com. That's my website, which has all my videos listed. And if you don't know how to spell that or whatever, you can go to Peace, Love, and Flat Earth or flathead.science. Sorry, peaceloveandflatearth.net or flathead.science. Those sites will get you to the same page. And my videos have much better explanation. But my view on sundogs is very simple. That what they are is the sun reflecting off of a dome. You know, what I did was, this is, I think, going back to maybe February or March last year. You know, everybody has all these pictures of, you know, Old Testament cosmology, you know, the Hebrew version or idea of the Bible. We got a friend named Kevin. I think you know him. I think you're friends with him on Facebook, but he's always posting those amazing pictures of Old Testament stuff. You know, it's always just, you know, you got a flat plane and a dome and the sun's right there. And I'm thinking, you know, I wonder if that's what sundogs are. All of a sudden it just dawned. I was at my parents' house, I think, visiting with my family, kids visiting grandma and grandpa. And I was sitting there and I was just like, I wonder if that's what they are. So when we got home, I had the salad bowl. It was real smooth, which was fortunate. I found out later that it wasn't plastic or bumpy. It was perfectly smooth glass, because it doesn't work if you don't use anything that's perfectly smooth. Because in one of my videos I tried to make a huge one. And I tried to make it wasn't smooth enough, and it doesn't work at all unless it's glass smooth. But anyways, so I just took a lighter. I'm like, I don't want a flashlight, something that has all, you know, when you send a flashlight and stuff, it has all the flashlight patterns in it from the light bulb and so forth. I used a lighter, and I put it right in the bowl and moved it around a little bit. And I mean, basically saw exactly that. And I remember when I saw that, I was like, holy cow, I made the biggest, I thought it was the most spectacular, unbelievable moment of my life. You know, now I know that there's more work in it than that. And, you know, you really got to, something that big, you really got to have a lot of evidence for, not just a lighter and a bowl. But, you know, what I found was, you know, a sundog will appear in different ways depending on how high the sun, if the sun's down here, it'll appear one way. If the sun's up here, it actually changes a little bit. And the way it happens in the bowl and the way it happens in the sky are identical. And I show instances of this down to the nitty gritty, the way the parhelia are shaped and so forth. And also the double, there is often a double sun. Often you'll see the back of the sun just right next to the sun reflecting. Well, according to my view, off the dome. And man, the way the two suns move together and so forth looks exactly like what you see in the bowl. In reality, look identical. Now, I know most people are saying that the double sun is Nibiru, and you know, it's a pretty good theory, because you see a double sun all the time. But I've taken the view now that it's the back of the sun reflecting off the dome. And so the idea here with the Moscow video, just the one video to show this, is that what's happening is the academics would view is really, just to be honest here and not to try to be aggressive and so forth, the academic view is crushed by this right here, because they have their view involves this idea that sunlight's coming in and reflecting in a certain area and then comes in this way. Well, that's not going to happen. That's disproven by this, because buildings are blocking the parhelia. Okay, and when you watch the video, the most spectacular thing is viewed. I first thought it was, must be camera glare or you know, I don't know, pieces of a camera, what they call, you know, the retina of the camera is you know, has like an afterglow, like your eyes do if you look at the sun. Like I've got a light right here. If I look at it and close my eyes, I can see a bubble. I thought maybe, you know, I don't know. But it doesn't happen where the sun is. Okay, because you're moving on a train here. You're moving through the city. So you'll see the sun here and here and here. Then when it goes behind this building, no, there's nothing. But when the parhelia do, you very clearly see them. They're fainter, but they're still there. It's the most spectacular discovery. And then I found out that this is standard with sundogs all over the place. You can have a mountain here, and then the mountain will be real close, 20 feet away, and you can see the parhelia right there. And then this other mountain is a mile away, and you see the parhelia much brighter there. It's really very, very powerful information, because let me get straight to the point. Why this is significant, and you'll have to watch my volume 3 of Zeteticism on sundog inversion physics. What's happening is this light from this one here is not coming from the sundog behind the building. It's coming from this one. It's going across the sky. It's the only, with this Moscow video, you can trace where the buildings are, and there's like one channel where the light can come through at a perfect angle, for this sundog, this parhelia over here, to give rise to this light over here. What does that mean? That means that is an inverted image. Okay, and what is it? How do you get an inverted light image? By shining light off a concave surface. It's just standards optics 101. If you have a circle, well, it's, right here. Here's our flat Earth system according to the Zetetic Eye Gyroscope, which is the name of my system. You have a sun positioned in certain ways, and if you're behind the center of curvature, and the sun is reflecting off the dome here, you're going to have an inverted picture. I mean, it's standard. You can see people doing this with satellite dome dishes and stuff with the sun and everything. And so it's very powerful information to illustrate, in my opinion. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, there's no evidence for the dome, so let's talk about the infinite plane. I'm not naming any names. Some big flat earthers saying that. That's fine. I don't expect everybody to believe this. I'd be pretty skeptical at first too. You got to have hardcore empirical evidence for this, which I think this videos like the Moscow one do. But the point is, if somebody says there's no evidence for the dome, let's talk about the infinite plane. Well, there's absolutely zero evidence for an infinite plane. I like the idea of an infinite plane. I'm kind of an infinite guy myself, not plane. I'm maybe more sort of like, there's these pods all over, and they exist in some kind of platonic space or hyperspace, and that goes on to an infinity, and maybe there's more than one world, and ours is just one of these gyroscope pods or whatever that I'll describe in more detail.
But do you think that the dome itself would have to be, according to the model, the gyroscope, the eye that you've got, which we'll talk about in a minute, that the dome would have to be made of something akin to glass? Because you said you use different bowls that wouldn't work to do the sundogs. And so would it be glass up there? And would it be much larger than the piece of land that we call Earth that we live on?
Well, it would appear to go, in my model, and I'll explain how we get to this model. This isn't just made up. There's specific empirical data that leads directly to this idea that we live in a spinning gyroscope. It's a sphere. It has to be a sphere because sundogs don't work on anything but a spherical shape. So that's why I say sphere. It's an empirical finding. So the thing spins around, and we're on one side of it. And what happens when you have a bucket with water? You start whirling it around like crazy. The water doesn't fall out; it sticks to the back of the bucket. That is, when I was in astrophysics at Michigan State, before I moved on to study philosophy and anthropology as an undergrad, we would talk about that a lot. And because it's a centrifugal force, and it's indistinguishable from gravity. You can put an astronaut in a centrifuge, one of those huge centrifuges, to get them used to the, supposedly with the space program, get them used to all this intense gravity and so forth. If all that really exists, but very questionable. And if this thing's spinning around, like okay, let me back up here.
Yeah, and people might be confused that you're saying it's a sphere. You're not saying we live on a sphere like we live on a ball.
We live on the inside, on a very small portion of the inside of a sphere.
Okay, so it's
here in the bottom.
Something underneath us that's curved and something above us that's curved, and we're living on the flat land that's inside the sphere?
Well, I hold that it has to be curved all the way around, and we have to be below the center of curvature. Why do I hold that? Because if it's not curved all the way around, you can't have sundogs over here on the horizon and so forth. You can have sundogs to the top of the sky, on the horizon. So I mean, it's a sphere all the way around, and also it's inverted. We have sundogs that come in as inverted light forms. You can have pieces of light, like look up subsun, S-U-B-S-U-N, one word, in YouTube, and go watch the video of a subsun, which is a piece of a sundog, which this is a enormous subsun right here. Usually you can be little pieces of them shooting around all over. There's people at ski resorts that are like going up and touching these things. I'm sorry, that's not reflected light. That's a light convergence. Okay, where light is on a concave surface, you've got light shooting up this way, and it's all drawn back into one area, and then is illuminated in what's called the convergence point in optics. If there's something there that converging light can reflect off of, in other words, like some kind of precipitation, you'll see a piece of a sundog. So, but anyway, let me back up and start all the way over. So, you go watch these videos and decide for yourself what you think. And the idea is that there is a dome. And you can see it you're standing on the sidewalk and you can see a sundog. And I don't know of any explanation of how to explain that other than it being a dome. I mean, for the reasons we've said, the bolt, you can replicate it really at a pretty good detail. I mean, let's be honest, extraordinary detail. And I'm trying to be humble here. I don't want to be ego and all that. And then, you've got the idea that it's an inverted image. It's not an idea. You can see it when with as I was describing here. And if you're not following me, just go watch that video that I was describing. So the idea is there's a dome, and it goes all the way down to the horizon. Okay, so we don't know what's going on here if the sphericity of the dome that we're inside of goes down here, but we're only here. Why do I say why? Like people that hold the concave view, they say we're all the whole world is like the inside of it. Why do I say that? Why don't I hold that view? Well, how would we have sundogs then? We have to have a sky dome to have sundogs. It's real clear. The sky is the same color as water. I've never done the experiment. I mean, I just haven't gotten time. I've only been doing flat earth for a year, like everybody else. Soon I'll get time to do this experiment, put it on YouTube. But apparently if you take like a PVC pipe, fill it with water, and then shine it through the sun, it's the exact same color as the sky. So in other words, water is the same color as the sky. So, I mean, I just naturally hold that the sky is water. We'll get to this as this unfolds. But, I mean, I used to hold that the Earth plane was just, on the bottom part of the inside of the sphere, which it could be. But I've lately tended to hold that it's something like this for reasons I'll get into later when we discuss embowment, which is down here, right there. So let me get to another point though. So we live in this dome, and I don't want to keep going over that because some people get it and get bored. But if you don't, like I said, go back and go watch those videos. Just go to flathead.science or Zeteticism.com. Now the idea is, what's this dome doing? So we know there's a dome. That's an empirical data point, in my opinion. Okay, and some people are going to agree, some people are going to disagree, but find another way to explain it. And if it is an empirical data point, it does lead to these additional points, and it would function as a way to verify from the sidewalk that we live on an Earth plane under a dome. Because this point leads to this one, this one, this one. These are all empirical points as well. So go back to what I was saying about the infinite plane. I mean, I hear a lot of people say there's no evidence for the dome, and I'm thinking, okay, I think there is. I think it's hardcore. So we have this dome. Now here's something for you. This will really get things going and how to describe my model, which is called the Zetetic Eye Gyroscope. You can call it whatever you want. That's just what I call it. Now the dome is turning. Okay, how do we know this? Is it a guess? No. The star trails. Man, sorry, I tried to prepare, well, obviously, but I don't have a picture of star trails. Go to YouTube, look up star trails, time-lapse star trails. And you'll see when you point your camera in time-lapse, as many of you know, let me just explain it in 5 seconds. You can see the sky turning every night, one rotation per day, 24 hours. And we can, look, so what happens is you got in one side of the sky, you've got a clear circular pattern, which tells you that whatever's going on, there's turning going on. And then the other sky, there's another side of the sky, there's another one. Okay, you typically can only see, if you're at the equator, you might be able to kind of glimpse both, but you typically only see one if you're in the northern hemisphere. I call the northern hemisphere the inner circle and the southern hemisphere the outer circle. I hold the azimuthal map. I know there's all these fights and everybody's going crazy maps, but I'm azimuthal, and I'll explain why later. I don't think I think it needs to be tweaked a little, but so the dome is turning. That's empirically verifiable. That's by the star trails. Now, typically, we're told that's because we're on the top. The top of the Earth. You look at the North Pole, up through the North Pole, and the bottom of the Earth, South Pole. You see the stars turning on the globe Earth. No, you're actually on the inside of it. See, here's one view of the model, and the Earth plane is shaped like this. I hold that the Earth plane is embowed in one direction. It's kind of like this, like that, and it turns like this inside the gyroscope. Plane is embowed in one direction, so it's straight in one way here. This way, it's it's real flat plane, but then it's embowed like this. It has to be, because if it's turning inside of a dome, it's going to have to gravitate. Gravitation is, according to this model, is centrifugal force. So if the dome is turning, you're going to have an effect, kind of like when we were talking about whirling the water inside the bucket around. The water stays put. It functions just like gravity. Well, I just hold the same thing is going on inside this dome. So the sundogs, in my opinion, would be empirical verification of a dome. Star trails are empirical verification that the dome is spinning. And if the dome is spinning, and it does apparently pretty fast. And a lot of people are like, well, if it's spinning, we should feel it. And I'm like, well, of course we feel it. We call it gravity. The academics call it a metaphysical force. I know they said they discovered gravity waves 2 weeks ago or whatever. Go to my channel, go to Zeteticism.com, go to the last video listed, which is titled Discovery of Gravity Waves is Non-Scientific Information. And I think you'll like it. I was happy with how that video turned out. They just discovered their own computer simulation is all they did. And that's actually complimenting them for how they even say at one point, we can't even, we can't really see what we're studying. It took us 6 months to figure out what it's ridiculous. So if it's spinning, we've got in this direction. So it's spinning. You've got this model here, this view of the Zetetic Eye Gyroscope here, and then this view. So these just turn this way. So this view, the gyroscope is spinning along this direction here. So you're going to have centrifugal force going. You're going to have centrifugal force going in those direction of those arrows. That's why the Earth plane, in order for gravitation to be, which is really centrifugal force according to this model, is to go straight down. So you have to have the Earth plane embowed like this, but along the other plane, it's flat. And this is something that should be, if this is correct, this should be discoverable. So it appears that if we're in a dome, it's spinning, and the spinning will lead to centrifugal force, which is what we call gravitation. And also, part of the plane has to be bent like this. Now, this is a huge issue right here, because if you have people should go watch my videos. Okay, let's get to the embowment part now. The embowment means that objects in the distance. I know there's perspective, like David had that really amazing video where I thought of that, not in the detail he had said though. You're looking at a cloud here at 20,000 feet up, it could be, and somebody 100 miles away may see it right at the horizon. Isn't that interesting? Perspective is such a distorter of reality in a way that contributes to things like sunset happening and so forth. But I hold the view that perspective is half the game, or only three quarters of the story, and that there's actually, to get something to go below the horizon, you need light refraction. Now, typically, the way light refraction is this. Okay, what is light refraction? It's just simply when the direction of light is changed because the density of the medium it's traveling in is changed. So in other words, that's a technical description. Let's get to the easy description. Go take your arm, stick it in the lake halfway, and you notice it looks bent. Take a stick it in the lake, it'll look bent. Go up to I'm in my basement, and go to your kitchen and take a glass of water, stick a pencil in it, and look at it in different ways. And it's all messed up and crazy, distorted and everything. That's light refraction. It's real simple. It's not some mysterious thing. I hear a lot of people saying, what is light refraction and does this and that? It's real simple what it does. The more density that light travels through, the more it will change direction and so forth. So to make a long story short, if you have an abode plane like this, what it will lead to is objects in further and further in the distance from where one is will lower. I mean, it looks exactly like a curvature situation. And because the further out you, so I mean, if you're looking at, like, if you're on the beach in Michigan looking at the Sears Tower from Benton Harbor, that's about as far as you can see it, I think. Maybe a little further up the coast in Michigan, you can still see the Sears Tower. So if you're looking at the Sears Tower, you just see the little tip of it at the top. And, that's, so a lot of sphere earthers come out and say, see, the Sears Tower is lowered, proof of the sphere. And I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute. That's a critical thinking fallacy called go look up critical thinking fallacy, false cause. When you have one item, one event in nature, one aspect of nature is presented, there could be multiple theories to describe it, multiple empirical tests used to just try to describe it, but one is chosen and all others are ridiculed. That's a critical thinking fallacy called the false cause. There's 5 types of I used to teach critical thinking. There's 5 types of the false cause fallacy. It's good stuff to know. Oh, my critical thinking notes are on my website for sale as well. It's kind of expensive though, so I don't know. Anyways, so long story short, if you're looking across an abode plane, I know it seems paradoxical. You might think, well, things will look higher. No, that's not what happens. What happens is things will lower. And it takes me quite a while to discuss in Zeteticism Volume 1, but this is precisely a situation where in the distance objects lower. So if you're looking at, as I was going to say a minute ago, if you're in Benton Harbor looking at the Sears Tower, oh man, 60 miles away or something, and you just see the tip of it, I mean, if you look carefully, if you look at the Sears Tower, the top of it, or it's called the Willis Tower now. Somebody must have bought it out or something. You can notice that the water, here's the Sears Tower popping up over the, the horizon. You'll notice that this water here is real close, maybe a couple miles away. You can see the waves and everything. And the Sears Tower is so far away, you can hardly even make out windows or anything. So it's real clear that this water isn't the water. The point is that the Sears Tower. I wish I had another diagram, but anyway, if you're looking out at a certain point, when you get beyond the horizon is composed, I don't know what it is, 3, 4, 5, 6 miles away. You can see there'll be like a line of land or water that composes the horizon, and objects further than that start to be refracted downward in appearance, not in reality, in appearance. And that's why you can't see beyond that horizon. You don't see the water beyond it because the water is below in appearance of the horizon. So that's why you get further and further away, objects will be lower and lower in appearance because there's more and more light refraction. So there's another example of how the globe model can be so easily mistaken for what it actually exists, which is some sort of flat Earth plane. Now, the idea here is that all this, if anybody's noticed, when you go look at the supposed curved Earth, you see buildings lowered across Lake Erie and blah 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 blah. You'll notice that to my knowledge, I'm not sure about this, but to my knowledge, you have to get about 20 miles or so away, 25, and then this lowering effect kicks in. That's why all these people. I've got a boat video. That guy Red's Rhetoric made that boat video. Man, great video. He just films a sailboat for an hour and a half or whatever. And I took that thing. I watched that thing. I said, this is way back when I first became a flat. Well, early, last summer when I was just getting into this still a bit. And I said, okay, I wonder, I was still wondering about the whole boats on the horizon because people try to use that as a proof. I don't think you can use it as proof either way personally, but it does seem like those boats aren't lowering as everybody listening knows. But I remember he had that video he put up and I watched it. And because he has a shortened version which shows clips and clearly it looks like it's going down. After a while you just see a sail and you're, oh yeah, it went down. It's below the horizon. It's empirical proof that it's a lower in appearance for some reason. Curvature is what everybody says the reason is. But if you watch the long one, which only has a few views, I think he's the short one has thousands of views. Then he's kind of got the long one hidden in his channel a little bit. I had to email him for the link, and he actually sent it to me. This is before he and I become the bitter enemies that we are. To be honest, he doesn't like me too much. But so I watched the video, and what do you know? You got the hull of the sailboat and the sail by atmospheric distortion, they become meshed. You can't just, when the boat gets far enough away, the two become, you can't distinguish them anymore. Here's the sail and here's the hull. They go, it starts to look like this. And it looks, then after a while, you can see so little of it, just looks like this. And it just looks like a sail. You have to go watch the video. I dissect it piece by piece in about 27 minutes on my channel. Mark has it on one of his, that, greatest hits list or whatever he's got on his YouTube channel. So, I mean, the point is that the boat didn't lower. I mean, he's advertising it that lowers, but it's very clear. I've even had fierce, vehement ball earthers say to me, okay, you're right. You found the one video, Jeff, that it looks like it goes down, but it doesn't. I'm like, hey, they're all doing that. Go find the one where it doesn't. But the point is here is that this kicks in the actual lowering. When you see a building lowering behind a wall of water or something, that seems to kick in later, like 25 miles, 30 miles, 50 miles, which is interesting. I notice all these asymmetries. Like you'll look at this island off the coast of California one day, and it looks real lowered on the horizon. The next day, it's hardly lowered at all. So, I mean, it's very clear. There's tricks of light and atmosphere and stuff going on. Somebody's got to tell me why it took so many years, all these hundreds and hundreds of years of smart people doing all this research and everything. When nobody pointed this out. Anyway, like with the embankment, that's why you can have Sears Tower appearing lowered. That's why you get the sun. The sun will come down, and with perspective, in appearance, it'll look like it's going down. But then when it gets near the vanishing point, near the horizon, an opposite type of refraction kicks in and will actually make the object appear lower for the same reason that the Sears Tower will appear lower in the distance and so forth. And then it'll go behind the horizon. It hasn't actually gone behind the horizon, just the light is bent and such. When you see the sun up in the sky, it appears to be raised slightly higher than it actually is. And then that, when it gets down near the horizon, it gets to a point where you're seeing it right where it is, and then it switches over to being artificially lowered and right at the horizon point. And this is not some secret that conspiracy theorists like myself thought of. Academics talk about this. You can have a sunset without curvature in the heliocentric model because academics all know about this light refraction. That's why the sun appears like an oval when it's coming down, which is really moving away. That's because light refraction, the bottom of it and the top of it are being squashed because the light is being bent, the bottom versus the top in various ways. It gets to your perception and it appears squashed. I mean, that's just because of refraction. Now, star trails do the same thing. Star trails are not a perfect circle. They're slightly distorted in the exact same way the oval sun is on the bottom. It's like the bottom's pushed up. And so the star trails and their distance will go below the horizon. They're actually up high, but they'll appear lowered artificially when they get near the horizon. And that's why you can't, from the quote northern hemisphere, which I call the inner circle, you can't see the one on the outside. Which the one that's called the southern hemisphere star trail. Go back to the other side. That'd be great. Let me talk about if that. But I personally think the azimuthal map is perfect, except for two things, which I can discuss in a second. Now, the azimuthal map on my model, it would be bent a little bit, and the way it would be specifically bent is, you've got. So if you can see this here, this is sort of the that picture right there. Is sort of like this. It's probably been about that much, as according to my what I believe is going on. You can kind of figure out where the positioning of the plane is by sundogs again, because sundogs can only appear certain ways. I used to hold that the Earth plane was way down here. Why did I hold that? Because I just thought the ocean water was the same all the way around. It just was so elegant. So the ocean water we have is actually just a piece of the heavenly water as well. But I don't know. Now I'm really into the whole pillars. It's on pillars and it's raised up. And the way it would work is that, this way, this spinning. Sorry, can you see? Like if it's going like this, that means that the axis of the gyroscope is like that. Okay. So what that means is, when you're in Africa looking south, you see a star trail right here. When you're in Alaska looking north, you see a star trail. Okay, I don't have three hands, so I'm going to point with my head right there. You see, so the two ends of this drumstick are the axis. This is like the axis of the gyroscope. It's going like this, and so we see these axis points by via the star trails. Now, one, however, you see straight up, right, and one you see way down. The southern hemisphere, what's called the southern hemisphere, one you see way down near the horizon. and the other one you see way at the top of the sky. Now, I don't know. There's Australia and South America. I can't figure out how to fit into this, but that's a real simple explanation. Now, I mean, I think it's a simple explanation. The center of the the equator, you look up and you're right at the middle point of the two star trails. The stars have basically go into this circular motion, except right at the center here is like the interface, and then they go into a circular motion on the other side of the sky over here. So that would have to be the equator right here. So that's one problem with the AE map, in my opinion. So the AE map, in other words, you'd have to take, they've sort of got it planted right in the middle. You've got right in the center is the North Pole, and that cannot be the case. You've got to move the center down the equator somewhere. I used to think the Jerusalem map was the right one, but really you've got to have. I mean, you're looking up at the equator. You're looking up at the top of this gyroscope structure. So the equator has to be where the center is. And then, so what that means is that you have to move the whole map over. In other words, man, I don't have an AE map in front of me. Long story short, what it means is that you take the South Pacific. Okay, Africa points directly towards what's called the Southern Star Trail. The southern tip of Africa is the closest point to that star trail. Okay, so that would be in here somewhere. Well, it'd be kind of right. So let's say this is the Earth plane. Okay, so the southern tip of Africa would kind of be right there, not way down here or something. Kind of be right there, and then believe it or not, North America would be way over here. Okay, so then when you're looking here, when you're looking up, you see the star trail up in the sky. When you're looking in Africa, you see this other star trail right there. You see it way down on the horizon. Now they're both going to appear artificially raised. That's why we see them so high. They're probably not. They're probably a good amount lower. Maybe rather than being like this for the Northern Star Trail, maybe it's like this in reality, because the refraction we just discussed a moment ago with buildings and sunset and so forth is going to kick into a good degree for the star trails as well. Now, what does this mean though? If you move the whole AE map over, that means the South Pacific is not what we think it is. The South Pacific has to be sliced in half. So in other words, you've got a couple of those islands down in the South Pacific. What is it? You go a little below the equator, and some of those last islands, there's Tahiti and so forth. According to what we're discussing here, you're coming towards the end of it. And that whole large region down there in the South Pacific, where the place where people constantly talk about, there's no, no boats are traveling there, and there's just what's going on. That's where people, I think Mark has mentioned, I wonder if there's a hidden continent there. Well, I hold the position that there's nothing there, because that's the end of the story, and it has to be because you see that star trail up high, so you have to be at the end. And how convenient and how perfectly this all fits. I mean, the star trail, the Northern Star Trail being that high up, and the idea that the South Pacific on the AE map is you only have really half of it. It's a remarkable fit. I started to notice a lot of things like this in the Zetetic Eye Gyroscope model. I started to realize that, okay, I want to figure out this other thing. What would the model predict? And I would go and look for it, and I would find it. So, I mean, I started to really think that this was correct. That's why, that's the star trails kind of happened in the same way. That, I was like, what are the star trails? What could they be? Well, they must be a turning, of course. So think about that, though, because I agree with you. I'm not saying I can prove this, but the stars stay put. That's why we have star trails. So we're turning, and then there's this shell that we're apparently in, which has stars. Now, so we know at the least there's two layers. Now, what does it say in the Bible? It says there's all these layers to heaven, and then the highest, the last one is where throne of God is, which would presumably be somewhere right in here at the very top center, looking down, like it says maybe it might be Psalm 104 again.
Yeah, with the footstool and all of that.
Yeah, it's in a couple places, but it slips my mind. I think it's Psalm 104 again. But so the idea then, now it's like a top, it's going to precess. Now, this is something I've just started to look into. I used to think, it must precess a couple times a month. Now I'm thinking it does twice a year for a specific reason. So it spins like, if you look at a top, whirling like crazy going around, but then it's, it can be, some tops can go like this, but some can be real slow like that. That's the precession, it goes in a circle like that. Now, if the Earth plane if a top is spinning, oh, I've got some salt here. Let me just, it's not spherical, but if I go like this, so the Earth plane is going to be on the side here somewhere, so the centrifugal force will be pushing out. And the idea then is that we're spinning, but the stars are staying in place. Now, interestingly, it kind of looks like the sun and the moon are staying in place too. Not exactly, but they're kind of with, I wonder if we're spinning and then there's another shell that the sun and the moon are in. And then whatever dome they're reflecting off is maybe the one that the stars are behind. These are just speculative ideas that I'm trying to work through. It would maybe take a long time to figure this all out. But, why did I say twice? I wasn't going to bring this up, but here I go. This is something I just started thinking about, and it could be totally, I just want to preface this by saying what I'm about to say about the sun and the moon could be totally whacked and totally wrong. But I wonder, it just fits in with the Zetetic Eye Gyroscope idea. The sun and the moon, what do? They go back and forth in the sky, season to season. It's just like a procession. If the sun and the moon were sort of fixed in the sky, like the stars might be with respect to us, and we're in a shell that's turning, it would just all fit together pretty nicely. But I need to think, that the sun and the moon that we're turning, that they're maybe sort of stationary. The moon is mysterious. I mean, it acts like a gyroscope. It acts like it's a membrane with a gyroscope in it, in a way. If you look at time-lapse motion of the moon through its phase, it's almost like it's bulging around and stuff, moving toward, it moves exactly, it's known to mathematically move like a gyroscope, but it doesn't spin. So it's really weird. You almost want to draw the theory that there's a gyroscope in it, or maybe that Greenland light processor or whatever. I know there's these flights, these Antarctica tours or whatever, where you get on a plane in Australia and supposedly fly all over Antarctica. I think I put in that video I was referring to, I discussed that, and I'm saying, you don't know where you're not flying the plane, you don't know where you're flying. It's the same problem with the Sydney to the Australia to South America flights. Mm-hmm. I always thought, people make such a big deal out of that. I thought, what's the big deal? First of all, on this model, the distances, you can fly a little higher. You're all over that with the AE map. That's the strength of the AE map, is that you have the Pacific flights that all just make so much sense. And if you just have planes were invented in the 50s and 60s to go 600 miles an hour. Do we really think that there's been no technology advances and there's no plane that exists jetliner size that can go more than that? I don't have. Well, actually, there might be some evidence for that. I hold that there can be planes that go faster. And if so,
just like when you go on a regular plane, and they'll say it's the headwinds or the tailwinds that are causing a difference in the time that you land. Maybe you get there early, much earlier. We don't know how fast it's going. I guess the pilot could tell you, but
well, David Weiss put that video. Well, it's actually writing something down I want to remember to talk about. Lowering. Yeah, David Weiss has that video. Well, I sort of took the stance in December of holding that planes go faster. Just was so obvious. And I would admit it's theory. I don't know, but it makes a lot of sense. And it just solves all those southern plane routes things so well. And then like 2 weeks later, David Weiss forwards me a video of a guy tracking a plane on YouTube going over 900. I'm like, I'm not surprised, and it's real simple. So I think that's almost kind of sounds like a done deal. And if so, you can make those Australia to South America flights, 10, 12, 13, 14 hours, no problem. And you could even fly over, if there is some snow down there, you could even fly over part of the edge over by Australia or South America. See, that's the thing about the AE map. The one change to the AE map that this model would have to involve is the South Pacific is only about 2/3 the size we believe. That whole bottom third, it doesn't exist. Again, I'm not sure. I advertise myself as an empiricist, so I should make the point to say that what I just said is not fully empirical. It's just the empirical model leads to that theoretical prediction. That's a good way to put it. The only problem that this model really has with the map is I don't know which way to orient South America and Australia, because really they should be pointed kind of like this, like the Jerusalem map does. They should be pointed towards one end of where one of the star trails is. Of course, the AE map, they're pointed this way. Now, if you point them towards, like the Jerusalem map, point them towards one of the ends, then also it makes those South America and to Australia flights a little more difficult, and there's some flight problems that emerge. But man, we all know those flights are so long getting to Australia and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe it's not a problem.